Namaste and welcome to the Current Affairs Show with me, Pujita Krishna. We have with us today Abhijit Iyer-Mitra ji, and he's going to talk us through some of the recent events that have been in the headlines lately. Welcome, Abhijit ji. So happy to have you back with us and grateful that you could make the time.
Namaste. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you. If you recall, we did an episode of Vaishali Dialogues a few months ago with Kushal ji
Yes.
and Sham Sharma ji. So that was fun.
Yep.
So this is a current affairs show, and I would like you to weigh in on some of the recent events that have, caught or hogged the headlines. So I'm going to start you off on the U.S. midterm elections because that seems to be the topic everyone's talking about. If you could unpack it a little for for the layman who seems to know very little about the U.S. electoral process, seems like a very mystical, mysterious process, very different from our own. So, if you could speak a little bit about that and what it really means for India in the long run.
Hmm. So the surprising thing is, normally, if a government didn't do well, if you saw the economy stalling as bad as it is and inflation as high as it is, you should have seen a wipeout of the Democrats. And everybody was expecting a wipeout of the Democrats, which does not seem to have happened. So the important thing to remember is, if you look at CNN right now, I mean, CNN isn't the most fair or objective, but still, if you look at CNN right now, it seems to show that a lot of the seats are actually, in fact, not counted. If you can see that gray zone in between,
Mm-hmm.
those are all the uncounted seats, right?
Okay.
And obviously, this would never happen in Indian election. In Indian election, it would have
Hmm.
pretty much gone. By this time, all the results would have been
Would have been out.
declared,
Yes.
but clearly not here.
Hmm.
So the first thing uh, is it for the first time a government has bucked a trend
Hmm.
where a lack of economic performance is not being held to account? That is to say, has accountability in America ended? Has
Hmm.
identity politics trumped accountability? Number one. Or number two, uh, this is, of course, the more worrying prospect. Or number two, is the economy actually doing well? And all the
Hmm.
numbers that we're seeing, not really that.
Hmm.
There's, of course, the third, which is election tampering, which is, I would be much more likely to claim election tampering in America than I would. So you comes to certain electoral third worldedness. I don't think India is an electorally third world country, but America seems to be increasingly becoming an electorally third world country. So you have all of this. Let's see. It's going to take 2-3 days for all the results to come in.
Yes.
Personally, I feel that the margins right now. So, for example, in the Senate, you need 50. The Democrats are at 48, and the Republicans are at 48.
Hmm.
Where are the remaining 4 seats going to go?
Versus.
This is the
Correct.
big thing. It could be 50-50, in which case the tiebreaker comes down to Congress.
Hmm.
In Congress, the halfway mark is, I think, 109, or rather, sorry, 209. Uh, 218. The Republicans need to pick up another 20 seats to make a majority.
In the
The
Congress.
Democrats
Okay.
in Congress, the Democrats need 50.
Hmm.
Now, yeah. So that's going to be an interesting one. Let's see what happens. I don't think it was the result the Republicans were hoping for, certainly not the result that I was hoping for.
Right. Aruna Miller seems to be a name everyone's talking about. The one she's been elected or not, lieutenant governor. Is that the title? Is that the position she holds? She's won. Aruna Miller.
I think Lieutenant Governor, no?
Governor. Yes, I was going to say general, but lieutenant governor of Maryland. Yeah, I think she's a
Right.
Democratic candidate. And so I wanted to ask you: do you see in the long run, or do you see a possibility of someone like a Rishi Sunak type of candidate or politician emerging from the American political scape, who do you see that
Well,
happening?
America had its Rishi Sunak moment.
Okay.
be it Nikki Haley, be it Piyush Jindal, who considers Indian food to be ethnic food, and Kamala Harris, who
Exactly.
suddenly discovers her Indian roots after being Jamaican or whatever for most of her life. So they've had the Rishi Sunak moment long, long back. Uh, of course, I'm not a big fan of Rishi Sunak either. You remember he did not open his mouth during the Leicester riots.
Exactly.
Everybody went gaga over the fact that he spoke about grooming gangs, but nobody seems to want to hold him to account for his silence over Leicester.
Leicester.
And the problem for the Hindu electorate is that if you wear a tika, if you wear a sari, and if you wear some prayer bands on your hand, they all go into these orgasmic raptures.
True.
So they're idiots. So let's be clear about it. So I don't have a very high opinion either of them or their so-called Indian or Hindu elected representatives. Aruna Miller, I think, is no different, right? She's still going to be much more American, and she should be
Why
more
not?
American than Indian. The issue has always been, why is it that Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar can wear their religion literally on a bandana on their forehead,
Correct.
but Hindus have to constantly underplay their connection, and the Indians who do get elected have to convert to Christianity first. Be it Piyush Jindal, be it Nikki Haley, be it Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is in fact a convert to some idiot religion that celebrates something called a Kwanzaa, which is a non-religious bizarro festival invented by a child molester to
Good.
celebrate people of color or some
I had.
crap like that. Yeah. So why? Why do they have to be like that? So if Aruna Miller, waves diya on Deepavali, for me that doesn't make her a Hindu. It certainly doesn't make her pro-Hindu for me. And it's a deeper psychology within the Indian community, I guess, in America, why, and the UK to an extent. Because remember, the Hindu community did not come out, they did not demand accountability from Rishi Sunak. The Hindu
Yes.
community was crucial in the Tories winning this election victory under Bojo sometime back, at least in terms of funding, and not if not in terms of vote. They're never going to be a vote bank, but they'll be very good at funding, either denying somebody funding or giving somebody funding. Why is Rishi Sunak not held to the same account? Why is it that Keir Starmer of Labour is the one that puts out the statement of Hinduphobia and not Rishi Sunak? And, at some point we have to, so let me give you an example. The Italian embassy in Delhi, they don't really like or care for Sonia Gandhi much because they think that their freedom of action is vastly reduced because of Sonia's Italian heritage. Similarly, I don't think we should be celebrating Rishi Sunak because it largely restricts his, in fact, even when there is no equivalence, he'll be forced to bring in equivalence to be seen to be above a sort of partisan
Well, yeah,
issue.
issues. Correct. Correct. True. Um, right. So you speak of Leicester violence. Do you think that these kind of instances are going to be on the rise? Do you think it's going to be tempered because of somebody like Rishi? But Rishi Sunak, I do think is slightly different. I don't know. This is my reading. I could be completely wrong, but slightly different from the Nikki Haley's and Kamala Harris's of this world. So I just wanted to ask you: do you think that these openly flagrant instances of Hindu intolerance, do you think that's going to be tempered, or that's going to come down, or it's just going to go?
So the thing with Leicester was that it was unusual in that this was one of the few Hindu blue collar communities. Hindus in the UK overwhelmingly tend to be white collar and they're not stuck in these ghettos. And this was unusual because these were recent emigres from Goa, Daman, and Diu via Portugal, who were in blue collar jobs in Leicester in a very, very down market blue collar neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, anyway, the actual instances of Hindus coming into contact with Muslims who are overwhelmingly blue collar and live in high crime zones is very low. So this was one of the areas where they did come into contact, and it blew up very, very rapidly. Okay. Now, that said, we need to remember that the possibility of this repeating will be low, simply because these are not two communities side by side with each other. However, it's equally important to remember that the only difference between, say, Rishi Sunak and the rest is their accent. Right. You say Rishi Sunak speaks with this kind of an accent, as opposed to Kamala Harris, who is speaking like this. Oh my God, what a lovely little dupatta you're wearing. It's just like my mama used to be back home in Texas. So other than that,
Yeah.
there's absolutely no difference between these people. You look at Rishi Sunak's family, the family that he married into, they're the worst kind of social climbers you could ever meet. Right. Yeah. So Rohan Murthy made that fellow Sheldon Pollock vitriolically anti-Hindu creep, the Narayana Murthy library head at Harvard.
Sorry, could you
His
repeat that part? Rohan Murthy being the son of Narayan Murthy.
Narayana Murthy
How was he?
made Sheldon Pollock. He gave a $10-20 million grant to Harvard. This fellow gives money to this Sheldon Pollock fellow, who's the worst kind of trash you can come across, Max Muller Redux, to set up the Indian Culture Library at Harvard. Similarly, his father, that is Rohan Murthy's
This
father, Narayana Murthy.
Murthy Classics, is that different? Murthy, there's something called
They're the Murthy Classic Library.
Library. Same thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And he also gives, the father gives money to that Indian public minded journalism, whatever, which funds alt news, The Wire, and all of that.
Oh.
Now, so you see, my issue is this is a family of yuppies. Yuppies married to yuppies. Okay.
Interesting. Well, I didn't quite see it that way because, for example, the Murtis have always been presented as, the ideal couple, the very humble beginnings, and very sort of the antithesis to the typical capitalistic sort of,
It's lovely what a image management company can do for you if you can afford them.
right.
I'm sure if I hired an image management company, you'd think I'm this gentle left-wing human rights activist.
Wow, if only that were true. Okay. So on to Wire and their recent troubles. What are your thoughts on how, of course, the story is a little old, but apparently their offices were raided in the Wire's offices. Where is that now? What's happening there? Do you have any idea?
See, I'm fundamentally always uncomfortable with criminal charges against any publishing house, because whatever their politics, whatever their this thing, and this is a gray line, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. Because remember, what is used against your opponent today will be used against you tomorrow. Which is why I do think publication houses should be sacrosanct in that sense. The issue, of course, is one of criminal forgery, which is a criminal issue. It's not a defamation issue. That said, I think a lot of this happened not because of the Wire, but because of the ecosystem. I actually tend, if you notice, I haven't gone hard on either Siddharth Varadarajan or Wire as much as I've gone on specific people and the ecosystem. Because if you remember, why did Devesh Kumar get hired by the Wire? He had a history of making bots to vote against, essentially manipulating data and manipulating information to vote on Twitter in anti-BJP polls and things like that, right? That should have been a red herring. I want to know who wrote his recommendation letters, right? Number one. Number two, when they came up with the tech fog story, which was based on just as much of a fabrication, why is it that all these so-called the tech minds of India, the morning context that comes out of Bangalore, Pranesh Prakash, who considers himself India's self-proclaimed foremost India's information age intellectual, uh, 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 they did not speak up.
Mm.
Why is it that Alt News's founder Pratik Sinha actually goes on a podcast and instead of actually bothering to fact check, mind you, Alt News never fact check a single thing about the Rafale. They
Mm.
never fact checked when NRAM and the Hindu produced a forged document
Oh,
on
yes.
the front page. You think fact checking joint should be able to do that, right?
Correct.
He
Correct.
actually goes online on a podcast and says, "Oh, this is terrible. This
Mm.
shows you the BJP has actually created its industrialized troll armies and bots." Exact words. I've actually downloaded and stored that entire podcast for usage later on in the future
Lovely.
so that it
Lovely.
doesn't. I've also downloaded and stored the News Laundry interview. And the
Mm.
News Laundry runs something called the Media Watch. So there's
Mm.
this woman called Manisha Pandey. She says the most banal things,
Mm.
apparently critiquing the media, except she'll never critique her friends or people on the left. She'll only critique, her ideological opponents on the right. I keep calling her dung beetle because she essentially lives off the dung of Navika Kumar, Rahul Shiv Shankar, and Arnab Goswami. If those three stopped eating and shitting,
She
she
would have no
literally
material.
she would not have a career.
Right.
So she's quite literally a dung beetle in every sense of that word. Now, this dung beetle never does anything. They actually ran an interview of this Devesh Kumar and this other shady guy called Ayushman Kaul,
Mm.
who now works for a UK based company called Logically, which turns out to be some kind of an MI6 funded information penetration operation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're based in the UK. And surprisingly, they win an Atmanirbhar award for never having produced a single thing in India. So you understand the level of their penetration, that they've gone and essentially
Mm.
fellated somebody in the bureaucracy to get themselves an award
Correct. Correct.
without due process,
Yes.
without due diligence, without due checking, without anything. And he is the son of Gilani, the old fart who croaked and died, the separatist Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani,
Lani, huh, huh.
his personal physician and his advocate, his pleader for his cause in Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of a guy is given access to sensitive information. But anyway, this guy writes the tech fog story. Now, nobody called it out. Everybody celebrated it. Rana Ayub wrote about it in the Washington Post. So what happens is, because they weren't called out, The Wire and I guess Siddharth were lulled into the sense of uh, complacency. Bhai, Devesh, we've hit the thing. He's a good tech reporter. Our
Mm.
sources are right. Everything is right about it.
Mm.
Even if you scratch, there was this guy called Samarth Bansal who was the only one who wrote a piece
Mm.
criticizing that tech fog story. Now, you tell me, if you were Siddharth Varadarajan, what would you see? Devesh has one tick against him, but 100 ticks for him. Tech
Mm.
fog has one tick against it, but 100 ticks for it.
For
And
it.
what kind of 100 ticks? Washington Post,
Correct.
Bloomberg, Reuters, everybody, News Laundry, Alt News, everybody writing for it.
Correct.
How was he? So when, see, at some point, you get inured.
Mm.
You, at what point do you lose trust in a reporter? It's only when something like this happens that you lose trust in a reporter. Until then, it's a relationship of trust.
True.
Now, what pisses me off is that while Wire and Siddharth Vajrarajan have apologized, they have not apologized to the person that they maligned, Amit Malviya, but they
Correct.
apologized to their readers.
Yes.
None of these other joints,
Mm.
either through editorial evasion like Pranesh Prakash,
Mm.
or through editorial collusion like News Laundry and Alt News, have ever apologized for their role in essentially nurturing a story like this,
Mm.
which was tech fog, which was equally false, if not even more false and concocted. What do you do?
Mm.
Right? So I think here the Wire is the least to blame, and all these other houses are the most to blame because they're so shameless. They've kind of used, like, the crucifixion of Christ is meant to absolve humanity of its sins.
Mm.
They've kind of used Wire as Jesus,
Yeah.
while their own rotten
As if
houses have,
correct.
yeah.
Basking in the glory of somebody else's martyrdom. Um,
And because they, like that Roman centurion who pricked the heart of Christ with a spear after he had been crucified, and the other Roman centurion that held up vinegared water to his mouth
okay.
to torment him on his cross. They too write this one or two takeaway tokens against the wire to say, see, we were so fair. We also commented against the wire story. Now pat ourselves on the back because
Yeah.
we're so fair and logical and
Correct.
whatnot nonsense. I have never in my life have I seen such a bunch of
Hip-
syphilitic, gonorrheatic, diseased
Hypocrisy.
vultures. Diseased vultures
Right. Yeah.
flying over, circling over a carcass like this.
Carcass. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, but I also wanted you to, maybe reflect a little bit on, how journalism has descended into sort of sensationalism, which, or also not just sensationalism, but also kind of no accountability. It's social media journalism essentially, where you just shoot and scoop, so there is no accountability. People are. What do you have got to say about that? I think
So, this started off with TV when people were willing to wait for the news for 24 hours.
Hmm.
Uh, you used to have journalism because
Correct.
that 24 hours allows you that sleep that you have in between
Right.
allows you to calm down.
Mm,
That tea break that you have kind of forces a reality check on you. The editor has time to think things through. It started off with TV, where we started believing that TV news anchors were journalists.
mm.
Just because you've
True.
got a pretty face and a strapping mush and a deep, sexy, husky male voice, or a very sultry female voice, does not make you a journalist.
Journalist, right.
It just makes you a good face, good hair, TV dolly, nothing more.
Correct. Correct.
We started believing that these people are journalists.
Mm.
And then, of course, there was the 24-hour news cycle and the
Mm.
sheer number of news channels where everybody had to outdo everybody else for breaking news.
Mm.
And today, if you go to Indian news channels, everything is breaking news.
Correct.
Sonia Gandhi broke a teacup.
Breaking.
Narendra Modi chipped his fingernail while cutting a cuticle of his whatever. I don't know. Smriti Irani, instead of putting her sindoor 7 inches over her head, some of it slipped down and there was chur of sindoor somewhere,
Yes.
only 6 inches over her head.
Spillover of a sindoor.
Breaking news. Yeah,
Right.
breaking news, all of this is, right? So, what do you do in a situation like that? And social media made that a lot worse
Mm.
because social media now has the ability to myth bust
Mm.
very, very rapidly. So, when you come from the 24-hour news cycle,
Correct.
added to the democratization of news, you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught very, very bad.
Mm.
But it also means that the news cycle is irretrievably destroyed, but it's also irretrievably democratized, which these people don't like.
Mm. That's true. So there's both sides to it. It's, uh, you know, um, I agree. So finally, I'd like you to towards the, I mean, as a climax of our show, talk a little bit about Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, because it seems to go on endlessly, ceaseless, unceasingly, and the man has turned into some sort of a Forrest Gump like figure. uh, so your thoughts, please.
I think they're trying very hard to get it into the news because nobody's actually bothering to cover it,
True.
right? The second thing is they've gotten so desperate that the Congress is sending Congress leaders and friendly journalist threats saying tweet about this or else.
Is that
I mean,
true? That's a weird.
it's not worded as crudely, but the message has generally gone out that please give it some, if you're a true friend, please give it some publicity.
Oh, wow.
Because remember, the problem here is they're not going from house to house. It's a media blitz. It's not so much as a meet the people thing.
Hmm.
It's just another set of rallies, one after the other. There's no real people connect out there. It's come out and see Rahul Gandhi and he's jogging or he's racing someone.
Correct.
Now, if physical fitness and fairness and good looks were the criteria of handsomeness, then we shouldn't have an election. The winner of Gladrag's manhunt should be declared,
Yes.
after the swimsuit round, who has the best biceps and best pecs and most silhouetted cheekbones should be declared Prime Minister of India.
Correct.
But this is not how prime ministers are decided, you see. It's
Hmm.
not a fitness contest. It's not a modeling contest. It's not a good looks contest. It's not a compassion contest. In fact, I dare say that Indians don't really like too much compassion in people. They want to see somebody quite cutthroaty and
Hmm. Hmm.
sharp and witty and things like that, if
True.
nothing else. So I don't think even they know what they're doing anymore, which tells you how sad the party's become.
Really, I mean, I also wonder, does this have any, I mean, from what you say, it doesn't seem to be impacting anyone, but do you think in the rural and semi-urban areas, this fabled charm that you were speaking of, do you think it, or just the fact that he belongs to this lineage of Gandhi, do you think it still carries any water or holds any water?
Not anymore. Not
Hmm.
anymore. Before, first of all, remember, we need to remember that TV sort of brought leaders into everybody's living room.
Hmm.
So they're no longer as precious as they used to be.
They used to be,
You
right?
remember once upon a time when Queen Elizabeth went to England, to Australia or whatever, there'd be millions of people. Once upon a time, you had to have civic receptions for Khrushchev and Eisenhower at the
Yes.
Lal Killa, where literally
Yes.
millions of people would attend to see, oh, Rus ka
What does he look
Rashtrapati
like?
aaya hai, yeah,
Ah,
America's
correct.
president has come. Today, they don't give a damn,
Yes.
right? This is one. The second issue has become that overexposure to TV, meaning that you're seen every single day, the charm, the mystique of it has gone.
Yes.
Third, in the Rahul Gandhi case, I think in the Gandhi family case, because modern fights, say against jihad or economic emancipation, has become much more important than some freedom struggle, some imaginary freedom struggle that you allegedly fought 70 years back against some foreigner, which nobody remembers, nobody's grandfather even remembers anymore.
Correct.
It's no longer salient, right?
Hmm.
Shashi Tharoor tried very smartly with that book, that British.
End
I
of
think people forgot
era of darkness. That one.
Era of Darkness. Yeah,
Yeah.
he tried very smartly to reinstate that dialogue. And people didn't pick up on what the political motive there was.
Could you elaborate on that? What was the?
So it was all about the horrors of British rule in India,
Yes. Yes.
and it was his very subtle way of reminding people that the Congress got you independence, and independence defined India.
Oh, so that. Oh, wow.
So it was to take you back to 30 years and be
Mm,
in that mentality of 30 years back,
mm, mm,
where
mm,
the
mm.
British, where independence from the British defined our identity. Today,
Correct.
independence from the British no longer defines our
Defines
identity,
us. True. True.
right?
True.
We've moved on.
Mm,
So it's like America. Like, who talks about the Great War of Independence in
correct.
America anymore? World War II, World War I would define them a lot more
Then
than
the American War of Independence or Civil War or
exactly, because remember, it was only the 13 colonies, which are less than 1/5 of modern day USA today,
true.
that got their independence from Britain. Four
True.
fifths of America were annexed by America after they got independence from
Very
Britain.
true. Yes. Yes.
So, here, I would say what, 80-90% of your population has been born after independence with no impact of the Congress's alleged struggle in this concocted war of independence that we talk about. So, what's the relevance?
Hmm.
So, so for me, assume cooking is very important. So,
Hmm.
if you say that the Italian Michelin 3-star chef Carlo Cracco is coming home to cook for you, I'd be like, oh my God, Carlo Cracco ji, mere ghar aa rahe hain, Sakshat Vishnu Bhagwan mere ghar aa rahe hain, and I do, ta na 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 na, and do aarti farti everything and keep it ready. On the other hand, I do not watch cricket.
Correct.
Okay? So if somebody said, Abhijit, Virat Kohli is coming over to your house to eat, I'd be like, मैंने क्या अनाथ आश्रम लगा के रखा है, मैंने क्या लंगर लगा के रखा
कौन
है,
है
तेरे घर
विराट
पता नहीं
कोहली?
कौन कौन आ रहा है. So the on the other hand, for you, food might not be important for you and cricket might be important for you. You'll be say what I say for Virat Kohli, you'll say
Exactly.
for Carlo Cracco and
Correct.
now what for the Congress is their Virat Kohli movement is for the rest of India their Carlo Cracco movement.
Correct.
It's just unimportant. So when you say British, Gandhi, this and that, this is the kind of reaction that you get. What are you going to do about it?
It's not relevant
I
anymore.
don't. It's not relevant anymore. So how are they going to get out of it? I don't think they've ideated that at all. They are not in touch with the conversations and dialogues on identity, society, and nationhood of India anymore. I think India wants to reinvent itself, which is every country's democratic right to reinvent itself. Remember, America started off as a creation of Christian fundamentalists who were considered fundamentalists in Britain even in their times. The Puritans and Oliver Cromwell and the same sect as Oliver Cromwell coming over to America to seek freedom from religious persecution. It then morphed into something about economic freedom. The Jews weren't emancipated till much later in America, and finally it became, the American dream, which is which is a socio-economic dream for everyone, right? So why shouldn't India reinvent itself based on its own unique genius? Because no society is ever static. As society evolves, it needs to reinvent itself and redefine itself.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, like you said, I think Congress needs to redefine itself urgently too,
I
because
think they're finished. I think it's too late now.
It's too late. Yes.
The party in Punjab is finished. The party only exists realistically in Kerala. In Karnataka and Rajasthan, they may have a chance, but again, I don't see it. Gujarat, I don't see them coming back.
Telangana, they're gone. So are they? Or like
Finished.
completely gone in AP. So there's no chance
Yeah.
anywhere. So, well, I for one, I'm not mourning. I'm only too happy to see them.
I am. I
You
think
are?
mostly because we need somebody to hold the current government to account. Because it's never good to not have a good opposition.
I agree. But do you see any other, I mean, certainly not AAP, please, but any other national level, any other local or regional party taking on the, BJP or becoming larger than?
No. I think we're in a situation like, do you remember when the Congress under Rajiv Gandhi got its historic 450, almost 500 seats
That
in
was after Indira
1984?
Gandhi was
Assassination, 84. And the opposition party at that time, that was the election in which the BJP got 2 seats. And the leader of the opposition became the Telugu Desam party. Because that was the only state where the Indira wave had not worked.
That's the NTR, Telugu Desam.
NTR, exactly. And what happened there was, we're looking at that scenario repeat itself. You could have regional parties different. At one point, it'll be Mamata Banerjee. At one time, it'll probably be KCR. At one time, it'll be, name another regional leader, maybe AAP.
I don't know.
But I think the big challenge is to cross the language barrier. Mamata tried it in Goa, it didn't work. Because her stronghold is Tripura, which is anyway Bengali speaking, and West Bengal, which is Bengali speaking.
Correct.
In Assam, no stronghold because Himanta won't allow it in spite of a large Bengali population. Punjab and Delhi is technically south east Punjab, because remember, we were all one state till Punjab was trifurcated into Haryana, Himachal, and Punjab. And of course, Delhi wasn't part of the trifurcation, but if you come to Delhi, it's basically mini Punjab, because everybody here only speaks in Punjabi. All, irrespective of which part of India you come from, the galis you use for Delhi auto walas are only in Punjabi. Right. So we are technically southern Punjab for all effects and purposes. So even Rajasthan and how are you breaking the linguistic barrier? Is Gujarat an actual breach of the linguistic barrier? Because I think it is in Gujarat that maybe, not in this election, but in the next election after this, that the AAP will make a breakthrough.
Oh, you think so? That it will?
I do. But let's see what happens, because I'm not seeing another national alternative form to this government in the next 10, 15 years at least.
Well, I mean, there's AIMIM, which has national aspirations too.
But the AIMIM is the BJP's B team, boss.
Yeah, that's what everyone's
It's
saying.
like it's like BJP minus, because wherever they go, they split the vote, and
Correct,
BSP and AMIM
correct, correct.
AIMIM
Aim.
are effectively, like, you tell me, AIMIM, nobody even knew about the Ovaisis when Daddy Ovaisi was alive. Nobody knew about the Ovaisis or AIMIM outside of Hyderabad.
Correct,
Even
very
in
true.
Hyderabad, only one or two constituencies in Hyderabad knew about them, even people
Even in
outside.
Hyderabad, even in Hyderabad for
Uh,
that matter.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and all of a sudden, everybody is talking about Ovaisi. Please give me a break. Has
Mm.
Hyderabad suddenly become such an industrial capital that they're able to fund, and the Muslim ghettos have become so rich that they're suddenly able to fund Ovaisi? So,
Hmm.
let's be clear, AMIM is essentially BJP junior partner.
Wow, that's well. I mean, everyone's saying it, so I'm guessing there is some truth to that. But yeah, interesting.
There ain't no smoke without fire.
Without fire. True, true, true. Entertaining as always, Abhijit ji. It was absolutely fun talking to you. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you again in the future as events unfold and have you weigh in on, matters that matter and with your little nuggets of information. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to our
Great chatting
subscribers,
with you, and thank you.
thank you. Please do comment, like, subscribe, share with your friends if you like the show, and keep coming back. Namaste and Shubhratri.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.